true. Good evening and welcome to another episode of Mowing After Dark here on the College Football Mafia Network. I am your host with the most, Moen, joined as always by my stalwart sidekick, co-host, man with the plan, Rock and Rant. How are you doing tonight, Rock? Can you hear me, Rock? Well, can anybody hear me? Can anybody in the chat hear me? I have no idea what Rock and Rant's doing. Okay. As long as you can hear me. Rock and Rant had some issues, so he had to go away. Thank you for letting me know. I wasn't going crazy because I was just talking to Rock and Rant before we went live. Yeah, he says I can't hear you. Well, that's clearly on Rock and Rant's end of things. Oh. How about now, Rock and Rant?
I can hear you again. I don't know if it was me or you or what.
No, it was definitely you. Definitely you. Want to thank everybody for coming in here on a Sunday night, Mowing After Dark. I will let you know we have got some new soundboard clips on here. We've got over 30 of them. I did get some of the ones requested, some of the ones not so requested. I'll just give you a random one here. Here we go.
Someday you'll drown in a vat of whiskey.
Drown in a vat of whiskey. Death, where is thy sting?
Just one of many of the great WC Fields. Great WC Fields. By the way, check out the new hat. This is what happens when your university doesn't actually make its own merchandise. I had to order this from Amazon. It took 2 weeks. It came in. It is crooked. It is smaller on one side than the other side. So I need to stain it up a little bit. By the way, I want to show this to everybody. I forgot to do this last week on the way out. It was our Mother's Day special. Treat Mom to Tarleton Slims. Happy Mother's Day.
If you forgot Mom, now would be a good time to do your belated Mother's Day card to her.
Now would be a good time. Tarleton Slims, official sponsor of the Indy 500. All right. Well, we had a lot of interesting stuff happen over the college football weekend. The ACC and Big 12 keep socializing, I guess. New playoff formats. So, you know, the latest being that the ACC and Big 12 are going to have an additional game against each other to play in for a third at-large spot.
By the way, I want to call, and I need to figure it out because I can't even remember anymore. I either said that in one of Greg's shows or one of my shows before that happened, and I didn't have inside information. I just figured all this ridiculousness thing, we would be going back and forth between 2 for them and then 3. They won't do 3, so let's settle and we'll split the difference with 1. And I don't think any of it will happen because I'm not sure where those 2 conferences forgot that they gave away majority voting rights for.
Look at this. MBM with 10 gifted memberships. I got a special one for you, MBM, right here. Little up-tempo fight song for the Oklahoma State Cowboys. We'll also give you a little of your Cartman Wild Wild West.
Well, I'm a badass cowboy living in the cowboy days. Wiggy, wiggy, scratch, yo-yo, bang, bang. Me and Artemis, large bug, go save Selma Hayek from the big metal spider. Wiggy, 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 fresh
And if
cowboy from the west side.
There's one thing we know about people in Oklahoma, they love to plow. So
I got my Magnum condoms. I got my Wad 100s. I'm ready to plow.
Nitwit, Otto Raider, Nathan Jones, Marquis Crenshaw, KSU Father J, not SEC notes though, Rich 12, Edward Wilson, Creighton Rabs, Ag Biochemist, you were all gifted College Football Mafia memberships by our good friend MBM, the Oklahoma State Cowboy. We'll play a little more of his fight song. I have to play them a little up tempo, otherwise I get copyright claimed. So a little up tempo, but I saw that. I figured I would put that on there for you, MBM. You're such a huge contributor to the channel and supporting us in what we do. I thank you so much. If you're one of the 10 lucky people who received one of those gifted memberships, make sure you thank MBM in the chat. If you're watching on demand, go ahead and thank him in the comments section. If you happen to see him on the street and you know who he is, thank him. Yeah, thank him on the street.
He's definitely a made man, so make sure you go up with respect at this point. I mean, he does so much for the channel. He makes me feel bad about how I feel about Mike Gundy, which is not how I feel about Oklahoma State. It's how I feel about Mike Gundy. But thanks for doing that, MBM. Very cool.
Very, very cool. So, speaking of which, the playoff. Oklahoma State would like to be one of the teams that would benefit from this. I seem to recall saying a couple weeks ago that consistency is key. I think Oklahoma State, pretty much as consistent as you can get in the Big 12, they would benefit from this proposal that has been socialized out there that nobody has done yet. What are your thoughts on this as somebody from the ACC and somebody looking to get out of the ACC?
Well, just broadly, it's like Japan deciding to fight the war again in 1946, right? Like they already gave up the votes, so they must be just doing political. I'm not a big performance politics person, though I know that optics matter. Maybe they think they can exert enough pressure through other means to get the Big Ten and SEC to not vote in their own interest, that all the other conferences gave them the rights. Maybe they're threatening something post the upcoming CFB playoff deal, which goes through whatever 2031-ish. That if you don't do this for us, then we won't stick around then. But by then, those two conferences might not care to stick around. I think Josh Pate sometimes has it right. I almost think that they're doing this thing with the Big Ten and the SEC where those guys are just like, cool, like say no. Give us the reason. That way we could say we tried. So I think it's like a just right solution, right? Like if the Big Ten and the SEC want to give them 2 AQs and they want the same parity or at least 3, then the middle ground between 4 and 6 would be 5, and you two split it. Figure out how you want to split it. It would be an interesting game. It would be one of the more interesting games, right? In theory, but I don't know if I'm the SEC or Big Ten, where right now I have 4, but it's not out of the question that I could get 7 teams in, right? Depending upon how it all breaks out with the at-larges, that they would go with this.
Well, he's dealing with his dog. His dog disagrees with him vehemently, of course.
My dog knows I'm thinking about Jim Phillips right now, so it automatically is a triggering response for her. She too wonders why now he's talking after he already sank the ship.
Yes, yeah. In case you didn't know, I believe it's 58%. They have a 58% controlling interest in the college football playoff, the Big Ten and the SEC. So there's really nothing the Big 12 or the ACC can do. Right. I think it was a great idea that just the 2 guaranteed spots for him, I think, is impressive. Especially when you're looking at the ACC with Miami, Florida State, Clemson, potentially a huge amount of teams jettisoning from that conference.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always and will never change my opinion that all the AQs other than conference champion for at least the P4, if not one or two others, is all that should happen, and everybody else should earn it on the field. And if I'm the SEC or Big Ten, I will probably get 4 or more every single year. But that's not what's going to happen, so it doesn't matter. And I'm not going to change my opinion on that about what I would do if I were in charge, regardless of whether my school is in the ACC or the Big Ten or Super League or Super League or the League of Doom or whatever becomes where we are in 15 years or 10 years.
Absolutely. We got a super chat here from our friend Jackson Johnson. Let's get CFB Mafia to 10,000 subs. All right, let's do it. Let me give you a good sounder here. You might have to go live somewhere awful.
And send me to live someplace awful like Ohio.
All right. Thank you so much for that super chat, Jackson. It is much appreciated, sir. Say hello to some people that came in here. We haven't said hello to people yet. Timothy Green was first in the house. Mountaineer, welcome college football fans to Mowing After Dark. Thank you, Timothy Green. Big Lubbock was second. Let me see ya. Stormy Cyclone says, hello, guys. Mowing, I've been mowing. I did mine on Friday. And I'm glad I did because it rained afterwards. Jan Hulk is here. He says, hey, y'all. Good to see you. Moen, we need a Palpatine unlimited power soundbite. We'll get there eventually. Eventually, I'm just going to have 10,000 sound bites. Honestly, at some point, I'd like to have enough money to put up a separate monitor and just put a profit system over on that to manage all the sound effects. Because right now, I just kind of use a cheap tablet, but when you've only got 103 sounds to choose from, it works. It works.
Just nothing from the last 3 Star Wars.
Yes, we're not doing any new Star Wars.
Rogue One is okay, but
Rogue
everything
One,
else.
yeah, Rogue One's actually pretty sweet. Rogue One's pretty sweet. The red just garbage. Bob Swanger says, good evening, CFF. Good to see you, Bob. Conundrum says, let's get this playoff nonsense settled and move on. NFL OTAs on Tuesday. RT says, good evening, gentlemen. Go Pokes. I hope you enjoyed the Oklahoma State fight song. Shonsky's here. He says, hi, everyone. Good to see you, Shonsky.
What's up, man?
Mr. Monkey says Rock Chalk Jayhawk. Oh. Almighty Finn says, what up, Moen? Let's give him another sound effect here. You know.
Note to self. Remember, no matter how bad life gets, there is always beer.
Very good point, Norm. Very good point. That everybody's saying they can hear me. Tumasta said he can hear me. Tom Dubay said he can hear me. Jackson can hear me. Jack Cobra Cat's in the house. I always hear you in my head. SSRI, man. SSRIs. And if that don't work, ECT, brother. ECT. Conundrum, I agree. Also, house settlement needs closure. Judge is out of timeouts. Time for a decision. Oh,
There's no such thing as judges out of timeouts. She could absolutely sit there and say, I don't want to completely destroy this stuff, but you idiots didn't listen to what I said, and tell them, you idiots, I'm going to be sick for 2 weeks. Come back with the answer I told you to the question and the test I already gave you the answers for. So she might let it go by. I still tend to think she won't. We'll see what happens. If anything else in college football has proven history, they will have screwed this up again.
Troll grinding cheek clappers in the house. It's the one and only guys who, no matter what, can be glad they aren't fans of a team that'll always be only the second best Big Ten team in their team's home city. It's College Football Mafia. I don't think he knows where your wife went to college.
No. But in 27 other sports, it does apply.
Y2K Inc. Baylor is beating Auburn week 1 and will go on and win the Big 12. Sick 'em Bears. That's a bold prediction.
The Big 12 part, I don't think beating Auburn is, but winning the Big 12 in the the carnage that is the Big 12 is a tough one to pick.
John Engel says, here and ready for a great show. Hit the like me. Hit the like me. Let's see who else we got here. I think we've got everybody. Oh, here's EH. How does one take advantage of the gifted memberships? You can click on it where you see the little gifted memberships up there. Click on it. You can claim one of those. You can also go into your profile settings and just automatically accept gifted memberships.
There is one channel that I have been a member for 10 months of, which I have just been the fortunate recipient of 10 gifts, and it is not this channel.
It's nice. Mike Singletary, old crazy eyes. Let's not forget Mongo. We lost Mongo this year. This is a good one. Question for chat. Who is the last Bears QB to make the Pro Bowl?
It's probably somebody terrible and not obvious, like McMahon.
I'm going to say Kyle Orton. And I hope Stormy Cyclone does have an answer for us.
Let's also give a little shout out to Jackson Johnson doing a great job helping us out and moderating in the chat. Thank you, Jackson.
Yes, sir. Moderator extreme to the supreme. McMahon makes sense, so it's probably not him. I was thinking Grossman.
It's going to be somebody who didn't have like the best year, but like the three people ahead of him got injured or opted out, and they wound up going in because they had like an interesting year. So
yeah, they were
an Orton or a Grossman. Somebody definitely has the answer. This is like that show on ESPN's morning show with the guy that's always trying to stump everybody each week.
R.I.P. Norm, absolutely. Miss Norm McDonald every day. Hilarious. By the way, I don't know if you know this, MVM. They are trying to restore the R-rated cut of Dirty Work on Vinegar Syndrome.
Yeah. He lived in my neighborhood. We just see him walking around.
He liked to gamble. FF18 Buffs, Fergie is here. Sco Buffs just want to run the damn ball this year and win 8 games while Juju grows up and recruits his guys. 100 days till football.
It's actually less. I think it's 97.
There you go. Well, it depends on who you are, though.
Oh, week 0 game. The first game was 100 days from Thursday, so I believe it's 97, but I could be off a day. But under 100 is all I want to be because it's under 100.
Trubisky was the last QB from the Bears to go to the Pro Bowl for 2018. So there you go.
So the entire NFC was sick.
He did have the one season. Now it looks like Greg is saying Bobby Douglas, and I'm going to tell Greg.
You want a cheeseburger? Come on, everybody got a cheeseburger. Want a cheeseburger? Come on, cheeseburger. I don't want a cheeseburger. It's too early for a cheeseburger. Too early for a cheeseburger? Look. Cheeseburger.
You're going to eat the cheeseburger eventually, Greg. It's going to happen. Make your peace with it.
Clearly what we need is a time capsule because I don't think Greg would say no to Ninja Belushi.
Yeah. Old man, that's got to suck for football for your wife, but at least UCLA is still excellent and educational and on the west side of LA.
Hope remains in, the thing you hold on to.
Let's see here. Yep. 2018 was a good year for the Bears, but it ended terribly against the Eagles in the wild card. We drafted Trubisky before Mahomes. Never forget. I think you actually traded up to get Trubisky too. I feel your pain, brother. Feel your pain. Wanted to thank Moen for coming on CFB Weekly and running the gauntlet. No problem. Glad to be there. Glad you have me. It was hard times, but...
And hard times!
fans are when a man has worked at a job 30 years. 30 years. They give him a watch, kick him in the butt, and say, hey, a computer took your place, Daddy. That's hard time.
All you need to know about Moen's guest appearance on Rec Talk's Wild Friday show is that he was the sanest, calmest person on screen.
It's true. And I was the drunkest, too, because I was absolutely shit-faced by the time I got off air.
Did you? What place did you wind up coming in? I didn't get to watch.
I came in fourth, but I got 69 points, so I was happy.
So you were scoring even though you didn't score. I don't know. I think there's a global conspiracy. There's two of them. One is why Florida is ranked in the top 10, and the second is why both you and I came in fourth on Rec Talk show.
Yeah, I think it's because I made fun of his Weird Al Yankovic mustache.
Well, there's some cheese on a burger right there.
Absolutely. All right. Now we'll get back to talking about college football, I promise. You brought up a great point, Brock. I mean, they've already given the Big Ten and the SEC all the power they need. Now's a little late coming forward to say, hey, could we get maybe an extra slot above and beyond?
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I could think of is just that I have no idea what that was. Sorry about the loud noise, everybody. The only thing I could think of is that maybe they're just trying to do the optics. Maybe Jim Phillips has to make sure that he is seen fighting, because I think they gave away the voting share before he didn't do anything for Florida State. I could be wrong on that. So maybe he's just always in that zone of like, I'll do something as opposed to doing nothing, even if the something I do will do nothing in the end.
Yeah, I don't get, unless they're just hoping on public opinion's going to turn, and somehow the Big Ten and the SEC are going to be swayed by public opinion to somehow give them this third AQ that's going to be played off between the two conferences, the Big 12 and the ACC. But that's going to end in controversy. There's going to be controversies.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. Let me know, chat, what you guys think about it, because it just didn't make sense to me to do that. Troll Grinding Cheek Clapper says, best way to avoid a hangover is to never stop drinking. MBM, that's a John Dalyism. Love John Daly. Tough life going to college in Westwood, surrounded by Brentwood, Bel Air, and Beverly Hills.
Yeah, there's definitely a price for that pain.
And driving all the way to Pasadena to go see your home football games. Or don't drive to Pasadena. Don't go see your home football games. That works too.
It absolutely does, apparently.
Larry the GM, the SEC and Big will not be walking away. They will be implementing the new plan. It will be up to the Big 12 and the ACC to walk away. I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think that the easiest murder is the one that you don't have to get your hands dirty with.
Yeah, or like if you're a boss and you make going to work so toxic that you get the person to quit instead of having to pay for their unemployment. You do just everything to not get sued, but you make them quit so you don't have to worry about paying them unemployment and replacing them with either nobody or somebody cheaper. That's the SEC Big Ten strategy to me when it comes to the other two. Don't like it, it's okay, we'll leave. It's an abusive relationship that neither of them care if it actually ends.
Do you think that there is... I mean, listen, if you're Florida State, you're Miami, you're Clemson, you're one of those three, you're not staying in the ACC. You're leaving. It's a matter of when the Big Ten or the SEC are going to come calling. Do you really want to push hard now to get a third slot for an ACC that you're no longer going to be in and potentially deny yourself one?
Well, the worst, I think, well, there's two parts to it. One would be, do you do some sort of when they settle on these new AQs, is there a composition clause to pull something out of the ACC contract fund, right? The second part is this deal only exists through 2031 anyway. So I guess the worst case scenario is if things implode and multiple schools leave and you're still having, the Big 12, the ACC, 2 or 3 bids. It is not a forever thing. It is a 2030 or 2031. I don't remember the exact year. Maybe somebody in chat does.
I believe it's 2032, but you're right. It's not a permanent arrangement, but come 2032, you would have to imagine there's going to be even more power on the side of the Big Ten and the SEC.
Right. I mean, maybe the meet in the middle thing is we do whatever 5-3. We don't do it. But if you lose brands, you lose that other spot. I mean, I don't know. Guess it really depends upon how much political pressure they're getting, and I don't necessarily mean from Jim Phillips or Big 12 commissioner, whether there's any political pressure in the ether about college football in general with the government, which to me, even if there was pressure, they can't get anything done either. I would be surprised that those guys are responsive.
And here's the problem where I see where you're coming from, and I've heard this solution mentioned often. The Power 2 can compromise and promise the ACC Big 12 3 auto bids, but they must be ranked in the top 20. You're always going to end up with them complaining about how they're ranked. It's always going to be the Big 10 and the SEC are ranked more favorably than the Big 12 and the ACC to deny us that playoff spot.
But there's never a solution for this ever, right? Like,
there's not a perfect solution.
People always complain about something no matter what the situation was. 12 was bad. 14 is not enough. 16 is too much, but it's still not enough. You can't solve for every person. You can just come up with the most reasonable approach, and then ultimately it's within you, your team, your school, your conference's control to make sure that you're not on the knife's edge that could go against you as you complain about your strength of schedule being a self-fulfilling prophecy because you can't get games scheduled with the Big Ten and SEC because they're just playing with each other.
Yeah, you're right. There's not going to be a perfect. We're never going to have a perfect playoff system where everything works out and everybody's happy and nobody, but we've got to at least try and work towards better. A lot of Notre Dame fans say they don't care USC isn't renewing the rivalry. I think a Stanford move to the Big leaves them with a very, very weak schedule, especially if top brands go to the SEC. That's a great point, Ortho, but I mean, so far they've got that Clemson agreement. Even if Clemson goes to the SEC, Clemson still has to play Notre Dame every year.
And we did get the update that game does not count towards their 5 in the ACC, except for in the years when they're playing as per the 2 out of 3. So I guess every third year, that game is a 6th game that Notre Dame will be playing for the ACC if it even gets to a third year with Clemson, right? Once they implement the 2 out of 3 officially into the schedule, then essentially there'll be no dark year for Notre Dame with Clemson, and that year that doesn't get scheduled by the ACC takes it away. But Notre Dame has to decide what they want to do ultimately too, right? Because if they lose USC, they lose a foothold regularly into Southern California recruiting. Not that they can't recruit nationally, of course they can, but it does hurt them. They're not necessarily at the top of the NIL game. Do they decide to get that way to mitigate maybe having a weaker schedule and losing a rival like that every year?
Here's Stanford coming to the Big Ten is going to be very difficult. Stanford does not want to leave the Ivy League public library system. They don't want to. The only way I could see Stanford joining the Big Ten at this point is if Duke joined the Big Ten at this point. I think you would need to pull Duke and Stanford away from the Ivy League and then hope that you could pull a Johns Hopkins away from the Ivy League system and fold them all into the Big Ten Academic Alliance.
Is there no way to have it be both? Like, when in the past, places only took Visa and MasterCard, and eventually they all take Visa, MasterCard, and American Express. there no way, the way it actually functions, because I honestly don't know the answer to this, that Stanford couldn't be in both?
Yes. There is a specific reason why they cannot be. You cannot share data from the IPLC with anybody who is not in the IPLC. The Big Ten Academic Alliance, Big Ten Cancer Research Consortium, those things are designed to actually bolster the Big Ten schools in terms of research. So it allows you to work with other Big Ten schools. But, again, I don't think Notre Dame's ever going to. I don't know. I don't think they'll ever join anything. They'll be independent, and they'll be assholes and smell their own farts. I don't care. I don't care. Just as long as they never win another national championship, that's all I care about. The public opinions pay for your media deal. Congrats on your new law that if Ohio State plays over a certain amount of times, they're going to sue the network $10 million if it goes over the AMO. Again, that's not a law. That is something somebody proposed. He's an idiot. He's a douchebag from Youngstown. He's a cardinal, Mooney Looney. And it's just for popcorn headlines. It's no different than you can't plant a flag in Ohio Stadium law that just got bandied about for no reason, just to score points with people.
Pro tip, if your representative feels compelled to put that kind of stuff in there for optics, you should really not vote for him, no matter, or her. I see you, Georgia. No matter what side of the aisle they're on, because they're not out for your own interest if they even wasted 1 second of someone on their team's time to put that proposal into consideration.
Hey, welcome to Ohio, the most corrupt state in the United States of America, the most gerrymandered state in the United States of America. Which means they could only get 1-2, assuming that they're ranked in the top 20. I'd be okay with Big and SEC get 3 auto each plus 1 at large, where Big 12 and ACC get 2 auto each plus 1 at large, 3 auto for Notre Dame and G5, and 1 at large. And 1 at large for a Big 12 ACC G5. I'm not for just giving Notre Dame an at large.
I'm for that. Keep it simple, stupid needs to somehow apply if you don't want to alienate all the fan bases that don't actually come onto shows like this in the long run.
Yeah, well, they'll come on this show eventually. This balance would be much easier with 3 conferences, not 4. Gee, MBM, I wonder why you would say that. Because the Big 12 is on much more solid footing than the ACC is at this point. ACC would have had 3 last year with that.
Yes, don't even remind me.
The only reason they don't walk now is politics. Politicians have sued the NCAA several times in recent years and won. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. You can just have one auto bid per P4 conference. That's true, Mr. Monkey says, but then you don't make the same amount of money that you make from the college football playoff. The people who pay the money want to make sure Big Ten and SEC teams are in there.
They already make more. The teams already make more anyway, as well, right? By definition. Yeah. What is it, like 22 versus 13 coming up?
Gilbert Canales, I hope I pronounced your last name right. The G5 needs 2 bids. There's always P4 teams getting their ass kicked by the G5. I 100% agree with this. I like it. I'm in.
Well, that changes pretty much fucking everything. Count me in.
I like the idea of 2 G5 schools getting in. I think it's important. We get a lot of G5 schools. Let the season play out. Each season is different. Silly to pigeonhole yourself beforehand. I don't disagree with you, Steve, but again, a lot of this is based on the fact that the company that is paying for this, ESPN, Disney, whoever you want to charge them with, They want to make sure that they get the best teams in there for the highest advertising rates. Jacobercast says ACC joining forces with the Big 12 will end like my stepmom leaving my dad for me. ACC unknowingly teaches Pitt to love the Big 12. Whoa, brother. You've got to come on the show sometime.
I don't even know what sounder you should use for that. Like, just hit all of them at once because that's a mess.
Well, I got one. West Virginia fans probably ain't going to enjoy it, but.
Oh, no.
West Virginia.
Sorry, West Virginia fans, but I couldn't think of a better one for that. Wow. Cobra Cat coming in hot off the top rope with that one.
If you did that on Friday's show on Rec Talk, you would have won.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Academics will take precedence over athletics. Troll Grinding Cheek Clapper says, thank God I'll always have Penn State if I did stop rooting for USC too. Yeah, but you'll have James Franklin.
He's not easy to root for as an outsider.
Some guys just have their things. They tough to get up. Look, Ryan Day can't beat Michigan. One national championship, though. That takes the sting away. Did Stanford not get in because Fox wouldn't pay, or was it IPL? I've heard more about Fox. I can only tell you what I've heard, and I've heard that originally they said they would be interested. The Big Ten jumped through a bunch of hoops and got money for them, and then Stanford changed their mind. And why Stanford changed their mind, I don't know. I don't know. It probably doesn't have anything to do with Notre Dame stepping in and making sure that Stanford and Cal got into the ACC. When do they need to have the CFP for 26 and beyond ironed out? I would imagine by the end of this season. Correct?
I don't know that there's a official clock. That it's not like August 15th. It sounds like they're just trying to get it done and buttoned up because the people in the networks world and knowing travel and how you're lining up home games or not home games, neutral site games, bowls, they need time to plan for stuff.
Yes, conundrum. Did you see the Tennessee legislation that quote unquote protects NIL from the Deloitte Clearinghouse? We did. And you'll notice it also says only in case of it can be overruled with a federal antitrust exemption.
Which is not the House settlement, though.
Which is not the House settlement. So who knows? Government's getting involved. This can only end well for us. I was watching the Sarcastable episode of South Park a little earlier today. I have a feeling we're getting there. They said Notre Dame can eat a bag of... Didn't finish that sentence, but I think we all know. Treat Notre Dame no differently than the MAC. Notre Dame AD shouldn't be invited to CFP meetings. Stop the preferential treatment. Bjork and others should go if Notre Dame's AD goes. Here's the problem. People enable Notre Dame to do this. I'm sorry, the ACC does.
Well, they're also a partner in the LLC that is the CFP. So they'd have to do something to be out of it. The CFP is its own entity that has members that are partners in the deal with different shares, essentially. But I'm all for treating Notre Dame like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Leprechaun and putting them on the land of misfit toys. Fine by me.
They should get an at-large bid, but I think I do agree that there should be some kind of I don't know what the word I want to think of, where there's just you got to be ranked a certain rank to get into the college football playoff.
They have to be, though. They had to be this last year. They still had to
fall for the at-large.
Right.
Like, like if you're 28 and you get an at-large, I think, if there's an at-large, it's more deserving. It should go to them. Fans that claim the ACC or Big 12 should walk away from a 4-4-2-2 are basically saying they would choose to be in AAA. I don't disagree with you, Larry, the GM. I don't want to spoil anything. Sergeant Pickles has been working on something, but 4-4-2-2 is actually a pretty equitable split when you go back and take a look at 2014 and beyond with the top 16 teams and where those teams reside.
Because past is always prologue.
No, but there are things called patterns.
There are patterns, but like what happened? Like a completely reasonable scenario could be that 3 ACC teams, as an example, are ranked high enough, but only got 2, and the fourth team in the Big 10 is 19th in the rankings, and the 3 ACC teams could be in 10. The right or wrong pattern falls below them, depending upon things. Like they could be out. Like if it goes to 16, it's a lot less likely for those nightmare scenarios to happen, assuming that there are 3 at-larges. 14 makes it a little bit dicier, but it seems like we passed the 14 on the way to 16. So
yeah, we're going to 16, which I agree with. No buys. We get rid of the buys.
Agreed.
Let's move the college football season 2 weeks ahead. Numbskull News, good to see you, Numbskull News. I watched your video earlier today. It was pretty funny. BYU versus Miami for CFP spot would have been great.
Miami would have had to win like 63 to something because still would have had no defense.
Yeah, but BYU struggled on offense from time to time last season.
Yep, hence 63 to something.
Yeah. Where would the game be played? That's another great question. You play that on a neutral field, or does somebody get home field advantage?
Yeah, the playing games, I think you'd either have to rotate it, right, by conference. If that's becomes an annual thing, I think you kind of rotate it, unless you just predetermine that whoever has the best record or came in the spot higher in the CFP rankings gets it as a home game. Because if you go into 16 and there's 8 home games and they're all going to be at home games, there's not going to be any like appropriating the bowl games or anything like that. I think you kind of have to follow suit with that game, and you just have to determine if it's a home game for whoever just came in the rankings, ahead of the other.
James Davis says, let them have 4, but first games have to be SEC Big in all 4 games. That's a completely other issue if we're going to adjust the seeding at all. There've been talk about adjusting the seeding this season, starting this season. But I don't know.
Even James Phillips brought that up, so that probably means it's happening.
Yeah. If there was a 16 team last year, the SEC would have most likely had 5.
Yeah, they would have had Alabama and South Carolina.
Yeah, Alabama lost to Michigan. I don't want to hear about it.
But they would have won by 20 if they made it into the playoffs.
Yeah, my team lost to Michigan, but we won a national championship. I mean, it's just we know your conferences are bigger and better, but this playoff format is nothing more than power mongering. It's not necessary. Chomsky, I completely understand the point of view you're coming from, but the reason these numbers are getting bandied about is because of the money that the network is paying. ESPN is paying a certain amount of money knowing that they're going to have 4 Big Ten teams in, and knowing they're going to have 4 SEC teams in. Because those teams, on average, draw higher ratings and better demographics. I shouldn't say better demographics, more desirable demographics. And
more expensive demographics is
more
really
expensive demographics. People who buy cars for Christmas. People who buy cars for Christmas watch apparently that, but that's the main reason why. Which is why 4-4-2-2. If I'm the ACC and Big 12, to me that seems like the natural thing to go ahead and get that guaranteed. You still have a shot at a third at-large. There's still at-larges at the end of that you have a shot at.
If I'm those conferences, I'd fight all the way to, even though they're going to lose, because if you give it up in college football playoff next week, there's going to be the same conversation about the basketball tournament, as if there was a problem with the SEC getting teams in this year. Like, that's the issue. Is like, where does it stop?
Well, it's already stopped.
It's a moot point in college football, but maybe they're fighting to make sure everyone doesn't try to do the other things where they haven't given up majority votes. That could be the other optics that I'm just riffing off
Sure,
of.
but I mean, they've already given it up. They've already signed the contract.
Yeah, well, there was Japanese fighting on islands for a decade after the war was already over because they didn't get the message.
You need an Arkansas pig call for Jacobra Cat. Okay, make a note of that.
We might need like legal representation, apparently.
MH Ortho says, wow. Could do a kind of opt-in out thing for Stanford. Let Stanford opt out of the academic alliance to the extent that they feel they must and only give them part share. Maybe on medical research, they opt in. The fact is, the only thing, the value that Stanford brings is their research. I get it. Yeah. They're great rowing teams and swimming teams and water polo and every other sport that we don't play out here in the Midwest. They're fantastic at that. But adding Stanford to the Big Ten Conference, the only reason you would add them is for the research boost. Numbskull News is getting constitutional. He says 10th Amendment Tennessee will rock with.
There's probably no channel where I may disagree with takes more that I watch more than Numbskull when it comes to college football.
He's a funny dude. The Big Ten little AAU club perception is going out the window to get better at football. They'll let anyone in that can play with a pulse and win. I'd like to argue this, but we did let in Oregon.
Well, they are AAU, so.
They are, but I don't understand how. They've got naked pictures of somebody.
Maybe somebody's stepmom. I don't know.
That's right.
I can't get over that one, honestly.
As long as it's just a stepmom with one or the other and not both. Best way to get Notre Dame in a conference is to bankrupt NBC. Sure. But I think NBC is actually doing decent. Don't cry about Notre Dame when you guys want 5 each. I'm happy with 4. I like the 4-4-2-2 model. My only disagreement with it is I want 2 G5 candidates in there as well. I want 2 protected G5 slots. And I want Notre Dame to have an undefeated record to get in. Moen, it's funny that the Big Ten expects to get 4 auto bids, and you say it's also because of media value, yet the Big Ten doesn't want Notre Dame to get an auto bid. Well, Notre Dame should. They should get an auto bid.
How do they get an auto bid? By winning what? Like because they finished the season?
They're not in a conference. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mind if Notre Dame gets an auto bid. My point of view is I don't think it's fair because I know how this is going to work. Notre Dame's going to finish 8-3, and there's going to be a more deserving 9-2 team, and the ACC, the Big 12, Big 10, SEC. There's going to be a more deserving team than Notre Dame, and Notre Dame's going to get in because they're Notre Dame.
They'll win if they win whoever they invite for the ceremonial road trip for the Shamrock Series. That's their championship mid-season.
The problem is, what if a G5 team goes 11-1 but doesn't win their conference but has a good P4 win? They are left out because they aren't a champ unless you make 2 auto bids for G5 teams. And that problem is solved until the next problem comes up. Notre Dame shouldn't ever get a home game. No higher seeding than number 9 with their cupcake schedule.
I think the Villanova Pope would agree.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. And I usually don't agree with things that are anti-Notre Dame. Hey, Moen, I decided to watch baseball again. Go Cubs. Congratulations. Go Reds. We know you're going to get the All-Star break and slide. How about Big Ten number 5 versus SEC number 5 for the last at-large? You know, Numbskull, you bring up a great point, and I want to address this. How many games are we going to have in a college football season now?
93.
93. Because now we've got to have 16-team playoff. Now we've got to have play-in games. We've got to have a conference championship game as well as play-in games. And now we want to do other play-in games. I don't know.
Can we do the play-in before the play-in to make sure we get into the play-in? Or are we just playing?
I'll tell you who's playing in. Look at this. MBM with the $100 super chat. My God. Let me see. We got a bunch of sounders we got to hit here. Let him cook.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Since you like dirty work, MBM, I'm going to throw this one up here.
And there's the Saigon whore that bit my nose off.
And let's do a little Monty Python here.
Family entertainment? Bollocks. What they want is filth. People doing things to each other with chainsaws during Tupperware parties. Babysitters being stabbed with knitting needles by gay presidential candidates. Vigilante groups strangling chickens.
Let's see. We did one on Ohio. Oh, here's one about Cleveland. Here's one. I haven't done anything about Cleveland lately.
Come on down to Cleveland town, everyone. Under construction since 1868. See our river that catches on fire. It's so polluted that all our fish have AIDS.
And we'll wrap it up with a little, since he brought this up, one auto bid for Army, you must defend the triple option. So I'm going to go ahead and find where I've got taps on here. I don't want to defend the triple option. It is a terrible, terrible offense. Thank you for the very, 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 very generous super chat.
Appreciate it.
And much appreciated. We'll give you another dirty work here.
Note to self, making love to blow-up doll, not as good as advertised.
Not as good as advertised. Thank you again, MBM, for your continued generosity, dude. You're awesome. You're the MVP. MBM, the MVP.
Maybe if you put a picture superimposed in a wig of like your stepmom on the doll, it would work better.
Look at this cowboy looking around here.
I feel like the cowboy might need to be fracking or something.
That stepmom still got me.
Stifler's mom is in my head, but I don't think that's a stepmom thing, but it's adjacent.
There we go. We'll rain a little cash down. Maybe your stepmom's used to this. Maybe she used to cash raining down. I don't know. We've got an eclectic audience here at College Football Mafia.
Yeah, you'll have to remember that we like to talk intelligently about football with some jokes to it, but like when it comes to humor, we're 12.
Yeah, maybe more like 11. Every CFP spot should be played for. No opinions. Well, what's the regular season for though? Numbskull News.
Well, he's right though. Still, the regular season. In theory, what happens if you AFC East it one day, and the Big Ten has one of those years where everybody's freaking 6-6 with two teams that are like 11-1?
Well, thank you for the super chat, Numbskull. But look, we're not gonna resolve this or the Ukraine conflict tonight.
I love to see a fat guy score.
I thought we were going to do it on the first day of the show, Moen. That's what you promised me last summer.
I tried. Thank you for the super chat, Numbskull News. It is appreciated, sir. Sometime, Rock will remind me. We're going to have you on Mowing After Dark here. You're right up our alley as far as the humor. Jose says
I told
that
Rec
damn-
Talk he needs to have Numbskull on his Friday show because he's a perfect fit as well.
that damn Saigon whore. My favorite part in that movie is where he's sitting there at the bar and he goes, "At least I didn't get my nose bit off by a Saigon whore." And then Chris Farley's character looks up and goes, "Hey! I saw you down there. I'm just kidding." All right. Just let Jordan Hudson pick him. She bit his nose off again at the end of the movie in that convertible. Yeah, it was the best $50 he ever spent, too. Jimmy, the new nose looks great. Thanks, Mitch. Best $50 I spent. Stanford shares medical health research with the UC system through UCSF, so that's one area they'd probably be okay with sharing research. It's only one area, but added benefit is cut off Notre Dame from the West Coast. Again, there was talk at one time, and then Notre Dame stepped in and Stanford became an ACC. Still waiting for the Tiger Roar sounder mowing. Well, wait no further. General Tiger. Bengal Tiger, my friend. Bengal Tiger.
I thought that was actually Clemson Tiger, you told me.
Oh, well, maybe. Auto bid for the Commander's Trophy winner because America. But they got to be ranked. They got to be a certain rank, Pickles, or they got to have a certain record. Because, I mean, like if a 3-9 Army goes in there and beats a Navy, I don't think a 3-9 Army should get a playoff spot.
Yeah, I would concur with that.
Conference champs and 10 at large. I would rather go back to the BCS than have this. Here's the problem, though, Shonsky, and I'm going to put this right out there. The 10 at large, you're just going to have people that are going to rank the Big Ten and the SEC teams so they fit into those 10 at large spots.
And I would fundamentally oppose the BCS again as a school who didn't go to the 2000 national championship by hundredths of a point to a school that you actually beat on the field. So BCS is like an ex-girlfriend. You remember her more fondly than they really were at the time.
I don't even have a problem if we put some kind of computer system in place.
Yeah, but the margins for error
that weighs
different.
it, you know?
Yeah.
I just don't want it to be the sole decider.
Yeah. Well, there's a big difference. I didn't cry about Miami other than getting sick about Alabama and SEC crap, right? Because if you're arguing over whether you should have been 12th and you were 13th, you did that on the field. It's a lot different when there was a BCS era and you could have beaten somebody ahead of you and you were third in the BCS rankings, or second behind somebody else due to a game that you had nothing to do with, and you did it on the field. It's a lot different situation arguing over being the fourth or fifth team even, right, that we had before the new expanded playoff is. Anyone who doesn't get in at 12 or 13 or after, it's just because that's what we do as sports fans. You don't really have a lot of leg to stand on.
Yeah, listen, I don't have a problem if we bring computers into it and it helps.
Just not Grok.
Not Grok.
We'll be inviting South Africa to the CFP at some point then.
10 times more sense. This isn't what the playoffs format was supposed to be for. Give me back the BCS bowls all day. Let's make New Year's Day what it used to be. I hear you, Shonsky. There are times where you just want to go back to the way things used to be when there were 11 teams in the Big Ten. And, we didn't have to worry about Nebraska. I tell kids that all the time. I'm old enough to remember when there were 10 teams in the Big Ten.
It is ironic that the Big Ten thing always comes back to the academic alliance around a league named after an inaccurate math account. Well,
it was accurate. because they actually put a little notch to show an 11 in there. So it was very accurate. And that's why all conference championships should get AQs. Everything else is just a proposal to stack the deck in favor of 2 conferences. I think all conference championships do get AQs. But they're not going to allow G5 conference championships to get AQs. Listen, I'm for 2 G5 schools. I'm for increasing the amount of G5 schools. I'm not for putting 6 G5 conference champions into the college football playoff. I'm just not. It wouldn't be. Listen, you're going to have those where they're going to be exciting once or twice, but like Boise State was this year. Funny how people think the ACC and Big 12 are dead when Texas Tech has Cody Campbell as part of the committee.
Does Cody know if he actually wants to be on the committee, or is it necessary? Is he having clear thought, or is he getting guidance from Nick Saban, who doesn't seem to know whether there should be a commission, and then he decides again? He's had a rough week. What's up with our legendary coaches, by the way, right now? The 2 biggest legends in coaching right now are off the rails in their own way.
No, listen, I said it on Friday night, I'll say it again. Pablo Torre just needs to mind his own damn business. I think Pablo Torre isn't getting laid, and now he wants to bring it on Bill Belichick. He's jelly. He's called Jelly School.
Right, because Pablo Torre was the one who finally broke the veil of silence on everything that was going on with Bill Belichick, as if the Daily Mail and the New York Post, page 6, weren't like minutes away, or TMZ wasn't like an hour away.
MH Ortho 12 says B2GT4N.
The Big 24 conference.
Big 24. That would be a hell of a license plate for Tony Petitti to have. Go Black 45 says that the G5 have their own playoffs. That's fine. I would still like 2 G5 representatives in the college football playoff.
Do you remember who won the AAA championship last year for Major League Baseball?
Bull Durham.
Do you kind of remember who won
the Durham Bulls?
1AA?
The Durham Bulls.
I wouldn't want to have my own playoff either, unless it was a play-in situation for the G5. If I was a G5 fan, I want to sit at the table with everybody else. If you want to do a play-in akin to what the Big Ten might do, that would probably be super interesting.
All right, guys, we got about 5 to 10 more minutes here. We're going to run through some more comments. Keep them coming, keep them coming, keep them coming. You want to absolutely guarantee it'll be read. It'll have to be a super chat. Maybe things need to get worse before people are okay with the number of auto bids Big SEC get in a college football playoff. So let Cal and some senators run the CFP for a year, and no one will complain when that ends. Just kidding. Yeah, I wouldn't trust Cal to run shit.
I would trust their social media base, though, because they were the best ones in college football last year.
I wouldn't trust Cal to go get the eggs out of my chicken coop. Somehow they'd come back with sausage. Oregon still being AAU status is absolutely ridiculous. I agree, 100%. But hey, guess what having Nike on your side can do for you? I'm for the G5 getting 2 auto bids as long as those auto bids come at the expense of the Big 12 and the ACC. I don't care who they come at the expense of. I don't care who they come at the expense of. I'm for the top 16. I don't know why we have to make this so fucking hard.
Okay, I agree with you.
I fine, Shonsky, but here's what's going to happen. The top 16, the 12 of them are going to be Big 10 and SEC teams.
I don't care. If you win it on the damn field, I'm with Shonsky. It works for every other freaking sport in America.
And then you would complain about the way they have the rankings set up.
I told you I'm not going to complain about who gets left out at 16 versus 17. I really don't give a shit. I'll have the conversation because we have off season and we talk about college football. But like, you have no bitching rights. You have no bitching rights if you lose a tiebreaker in the NFL because you went 8-9 and you could and you won your you were tied with somebody else in your division. Like, it sucks that it was a tiebreaker about the your stepmom twice removed and who they beat, because I'm just not going to drop that. I personally don't care. Like, if the SEC deserves 11 bids, so
Hold
be
on.
it.
Back up. He removed his stepmom?
Oh my! This is going to go down almost as famous as a couple of other calls we had.
I'm already getting the angry West Virginia comments. I'm already seeing them. Could
Just to be
networks
clear,
start to make?
It was that guy over that way. It was not me.
Could networks start to make college football playoffs pay-per-view? Already have. It's already paywalled. You already have to have ESPN in some way, shape, or form.
I do not believe that they would go to that next step of a true pay-per-view, because I believe that the government and the outrage from state-funded entities, with which most of the main schools in the college football playoff are public universities, the outcry would be outrageous. It's one thing for it to be ESPN, some games on, again, right now it's all ESPN, but it will go back to probably be on our ABC as well. So it will be over the air at some point. I think actually within this contract, I think they're adjusting that. But in the future, I just can't see them saying that Ohio State versus whoever is going on another tier, $39.99 to watch that game, because I think the state fund, I think the Super Bowl is more likely to go that way than state institutions that are the predominant members of college football, but that's just an opinion.
Pablo just wanted Jordan, and I pronounce her name Jordan because she spells it Jordan, to hook him up with one of her friends probably, and he is bitter.
If you all think that this story and that information wasn't coming out, it was coming out. It would have come out even more salacious and less resourced either way. TMZ, Daily Mail, Page 6, they got people who will buy their way into the story. At least Pablo Torre is not paying for sources.
Larry, the GM, says if there were 10 at-larges, a 16-team CFP, I assume last year, would have been 6 SEC, 4 Big Ten, 1 Big 12, 3 ACC, 1 G5, and Notre Dame. Again, Larry, you're basing that off of the fact that that's how they were ranked at the end of last season. Sports writers could have moved to rank them completely different, to get more Big Ten teams in there, to get more Big 12 teams in there. That's why it's hard to base it off of rankings.
You know what, Mo? I'm completely offended that you thought that the bastion of integrity, that is Ward Manuel, the chairman of the CFP committee, would have allowed that to happen.
Caleb Ramirez says, sorry, I just got here. Could you see the G5 having play-in games like the Big 12 and ACC? Maybe talking about, the Big 12 and the ACC could schedule those games if they want to. There's no guarantee that they're going to be getting access to a playoff game after the fact. Caleb, since you just got here, I've said it again and I'll say it again. The G5 should get 2 guaranteed slots in a 16-team playoff.
I don't know why you say that, to be honest, other than I would like it. It would be interesting to me, but all you have to do is look at the last 30 years of rankings, and most of the time there aren't 2 G5 teams that are ahead of the third teams from the ACC, the third team from the Big 12, the fourth team or the fifth team from the other 2 conferences. I think having representation, but that seems to be a little bit of a stretch. Week 9 or 10 this past season, that totally would have made sense if you looked at what was going on. And then as the last few weeks fell, people started beating each other in their conference and falling down. And by the end of the year, it wasn't really a very tough decision.
Listen, we've all got our opinions. And I think that having 2 G5 candidates in there, you're right. Probably 90% of the time, they're getting their ass whooped, getting their ass handed to them on a silver platter. But I still think it gives you more variety.
But that's not consistent, because the same argument goes the other way, right? 90% of the time, the Big Ten and the SEC would probably get at least 4 teams in, if not more, right? But you don't want to have it be the reverse of there are 1 out of every 10 years, 2 out of every 10 years, 1 out of every 8 that the dynamics happen in a different way, and somebody gets left out from the ACC Big 12. Like, I think that there's what I'm saying on one, I'm hoping to say on the other. I would be interested in watching G5 schools because I like the underdog story that could come from those every single time, without question. It would be awesome to see Boise in. It would have been awesome to see Navy in, if only for the opportunity. Plus, it's going to be a lot more different about how they seed people in the future. Like, those games could be more blowouts, but like you might actually get a better matchup.
Yeah, you never know. Never know. I think it adds more variety. I'd trust Northwestern and Vanderbilt more than Saban and Campbell. At least both are big SEC, but neither will ever benefit from whatever they choose to do.
Listen, I think if Saban talks to the duck, they'll solve it all for us.
And Nick Saban. Could you imagine what would have happened if they did a 16-team CFP way back in 2005? None of the realignments would have happened. Welcome back, the Big East. Yeah. Probably right. Is think 16 is the max? May they expand in the future? And Caleb, we talked a little bit about this earlier too. How many college football games are we going to make these guys play?
I will interject there. One thing, I agree with what you're saying, but if we just do the statistics part of this, even at 16 schools, because we did this in one of our episodes way back when, even at 16 schools, the college football playoff in this division is the least percentage of teams of any sport in college football. I believe it's either 1AA or 2 has 24 teams in their playoff. It's a lot more regional and things like that. But as a percentage of the actual 130 or whatever the numbers are per school, per sport, it is still either the most exclusive even at 16 or tied with one other random sport or conference. One random sport and gender kind of thing.
Right, but you've also got to include those play-in games.
Well, that's because everybody wants to do it that way, but it's possible to check for a 24-team overall playoff could be more money than a 16-team playoff plus play-ins, even for the Big Ten and SEC. I mean, I have no idea. I'm just saying it's we don't know. We don't know that those possible deals are. It could be that a 24, which produces maybe the same amount of games as play-ins would do collectively, could be more lucrative for even the Big Ten and SEC, who probably stand to benefit the most from the playing games just based off of the raw power of those conferences and their deals.
Do you think that Petiti prefers no further realignment? I do not. I believe he wants to go to 20.
I think Petiti wants to be Roger Goodell Jr.
I think Petiti, he is the exact opposite of Sankey. He doesn't say a damn word. He just he's a silent G like lasagna.
Sankey will stab you in the front. Petiti will stab you coming from behind.
No. We had this disagreement on Friday. Sankey definitely stabs people in the back. That 16-team playoff in 2007 would have been insane. Absolutely. Sorry, BYU deserved to be in the 12-team playoff last year over SMU, and they wouldn't have even made a 16-team playoff. That's how bad the rankings can be.
I don't disagree necessarily, but I think we're isolating on as if BYU and SMU are the only situation where one team in consideration in the top 20 lost to somebody ahead. They weren't the only ones who had that kind of situation. But that was the most glaring just because it was an either-or situation, and BYU was definitely underranked.
Absolutely. Scavin, yes, moan without a hat. Here's why. I had to order a Tarleton State hat, which they don't stock. They make them all by hand, and they stitched it on there crooked. This is Amazon craftsmanship at its finest.
I beg to differ. I bet you that Amazon craftsmanship was offshore to a prison in El Salvador, because that looks like prison work. Or is there a Tarleton State prison as well, in addition to the university?
That could be. There could be a Tarleton State prison. I might have the wrong hat. Or the right hat. Who knows? If we base the CFP off ESPN preseason rankings going into this year, no G5 team would be in. This isn't right.
Can I give a rant on that real quick? Not on that specific thing.
Yeah.
I know we're going to go. Someone please explain to me how Florida has an over-under in Vegas of 7 wins for most of the sports books, which is anywhere from 5th to 11th in the win total for the Southeastern Conference, yet is on everybody's top 10. It's like mathematically not possible. So either Vegas is way wrong, and I know they play the number to get balance out, but it's kind of interesting. Look at Vegas, look at the writers, go back to that analogy and see what happens. But the other part, too, is you don't have to worry about the G5 in that regard. Like a G5 team is guaranteed to be in there, even if they're the highest ranked G5 and they're way down in the rankings.
Absolutely. We'll end it with this. Troll grinding cheek clapper says at the end of the day, it's all Michigan's fault. If they had just let Notre Dame in the Big Ten back in the 1920s or whenever it was, none of this would be an issue. Blame Michigan. And to that I say, I agree with you 100%, and I endorse that. I endorse that belief. Welcome, Therese Armistead. I haven't seen you around here before. Go Buckeyes, baby. National champions. Absolutely.
You're definitely not related to Jesse Armstead, but welcome either way.
And Tony Lawson answers it because Florida's in the SEC. That's all the writers see. And then Shooter reminds you Vegas isn't wrong. Vegas has to get the over-under right or they lose all their money. The ESPN rankings are biased so that they can hopefully drive viewers to watch a mid-team like the Gators.
I mean, I'm cool if people lose money on their bets, but like it's fascinating. It's one of 3 or 4 glaring examples of Vegas over/under totals versus a lot of the way too early top 20 and 25s that are coming out. And I'm pointing that one out because I'm like more conscious of it because we're playing that school and I hear about it all the time. But it's not the only one. It's just kind of interesting. I think Vegas can be wrong, but they're very infrequently wrong.
Absolutely. We'll end it with this. MH Ortho, who's Stanford's next coach, mowing? You're looking at him. Mowing. Want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight here on a Sunday night, a busy Sunday night, talking a little playoff football. See who's going to go where, when they're going to go there. Let's get 2 G5s in. Let's not have any AQs. Let's have a wide open 1 through 16 field. Let's go ahead and do our last call before I forget. Last call. What's your last call, Rock?
Anxiously awaiting like everybody else. Is the house settlement actually going to be settled? And will we find out this week? I'm betting that it will not be settled clean. Come after me if I'm wrong.
Absolutely. My last call is it is a last call. We're less than 100 days away from the start of college football. I can already feel it. I can already smell it in the air. I want to thank Jackson Johnson, MBM, gifting 10 memberships. Huge.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Love John Carpenter's They Live. Love it. And then I want to thank Jackson Johnson for the super chat. Rec Talk, Jacoberke, MBM with the massive super chat. He was dropping milk. He was crazy. We'll give him a little fight song again.
Do you know what I am saying?
Numbskull News with the $2 super chat as well. Caleb Ramirez popping a 2-month membership. Thank you, Caleb. And then Caleb with a $2 super chat as well. Thank you to everybody who joined us tonight. I believe that Bomber is going to have a consigliere show on Tuesday to talk legal stuff with legal people. And then on Wednesday, I believe he has rescheduled his interview with Bob Thompson. So Bob Thompson will be on the air Wednesday. And then out of that, we will see you guys on Friday for the Big Freaking Friday show. Should be fun. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Thank my co-host Rock. Everybody have a good evening. Peace out.